and welcome to another episode of Something Something Chat Show with your host, Tom Jr. Jackson. I am the host, Tom Jr. Jackson, and this is my show after the movie review, Spooky October edition, number 5. And today's movie we'll be discussing is the 1931 classic Dracula. You probably could see about it from the thumbnail, but I feel I need to tell you this. Why? It's beyond me. So let's get on with this. Folks, have you checked out the Geek Singularity YouTube channel yet? Why, there's a cornucopia of entertainment right there at your fingertips on the Geek Singularity YouTube channel. Such shows as Midnight Musings, Midnight Metal, Let's Get Physical Media, Fully Articulated Writing About Movies, Observations with your host, the Captain, Robert Meyer Burnett. And all these shows that I just mentioned come from the USS Observatory 2.0. But the Post Geek Singularity has a brand new show on the air, and it comes every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And it's called Ladies of the PGS with your host, RM, who is also a co-host on Midnight Musings as well. This show embraces masculinity. They talk about horror, sex, sci-fi, DC, Marvel, and anything in the geist of pop culture that's fit to parlay right into a single video for you. So join RM every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific for Ladies of the PGS, only on Post Geek Singularity YouTube channel. And speaking of RM, she has her own channel too. What are the odds? And I should say that RM is a friend to this channel. She's a friend to me. I'm her friend. I am her co-collaborator, or as I like to say, co-conspirator for some reason. It just keeps coming out. I keep thinking it, and I don't mean to. And moderator for her channel. And she has unboxings. She has reviews, such as television, movies, out of the movie theater reviews, and trailer reactions and or reviews. And she does a show every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. No. Okay, let me take that back because I just got myself confused. It is 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific, and it's called Sunday Brunch Live with RM and her co-host, Russ Whitfield. And they parlay all about the pop culture that's going on during the week as well. And also, if you have a YouTube channel or a Instagram feed, or you got a podcast, or you got anything like that, let us know, and we will put it in, not only post the link into the chat for you, but RM will promote it, because at Positive Fandom, we embrace the creator, and we want the creator of shows and entertainment and whatnot. That means you. If you create something, we let you pass it on, as they say. We pay it forward with the big buck. Well, not the big buck. It's more like a good word, and talking about your channel, and we get it out there for you. So then you get either more subscribers or more followers. So you can do that. Also, going right back to the post Geek Singularity network, for as low as 99 cents, you can be a member of the channel and join the twice a month or every other week members only Zoom call. And you can talk with Robert Meyer Burnett, the host of the proprietor of the channel, the host of those shows that I mentioned on the Post Geek Singularity. And he's a director, he's an editor, he's a producer. He directed a film with William Shatner called Free Enterprise. So you can ask him about that. You can ask him about Star Trek. You can ask him about anything you would like to, and he will answer it, because he loves talking to you, the people. So give those channels a look at. The description is down below in the description. The links are down below in the description. And like, comment, subscribe, and ring the notification bell, not only on my channel, but their channels as well. And let them know that you heard about them from me. How great is that? Pretty great, I would say. So, that out of the way. And that cat in the bag, as they say in Germany. Let's get on to the review, shall we? And this one is chock full of nuggets. In the halls of horror films, one film comes to mind at this time of year. October, it's the fall, it's the spooky time. And that movie is 1931's Dracula, directed by Todd Browning. And Todd Browning directed another little movie called Freaks, by the way, so you can check that one out as well. But it also stars Bela Lugosi, Dwight Fry, David Manners, Edward Van Sloan, and Helen Chandler. Now, if you don't know the story of Dracula, which everybody does, but if you don't, just on the chance that you don't, let me tell you what it's about. Shall we? It goes like this. A naive real estate agent, Jonathan Harker, who is played by David Manners, travels to Transylvania, where he meets Count Dracula, who wants to buy a residence in London where he can sleep all day and search for victims by night. That's how the show goes. The show, the movie, the story. Bela Lugosi really wanted to do this film. He was very eager to repeat his stage success. He was in the play Dracula, and he wanted to play Dracula for the film version, and he agreed to a contract paying him $500 per week for a 7-week shooting schedule. So they shot this movie with 7 weeks. Think about that. Back then, that's 7 weeks. Almost 2 months about almost a month and a half, 2 months, something like that. Which was a paltry sum, even during the Depression. In fact, his salary was only 1/4 of actor David Manners, who played Jonathan Harker, who earned $2,000 a week. That's unbelievable that he would get that, As a matter of fact, in 1956, when Bela Lugosi died, he was buried wearing one of his many black silk capes. but not the one he wore as Dracula, which was the rumor that he was buried in. The rumor was he was buried in his Dracula costume, which he was not. Um, that one, the cape, excuse me, the cape, was put on auction by his son, Bela Lugosi Jr., who is a lawyer. Which, by the way, if you go and look up the Gilbert Godfrey's amazing colossal podcast, there is an episode where the late Gilbert Godfrey, and Frank Sancho Padre, his Gilbert's co-host, they both interview Bela Lugosi Jr. And it's a fantastic interview. And I would implore you to listen to that. As a matter of fact, they interview Bela Lugosi Jr., they interview Boris Karloff's daughter, Sarah. They interview Vincent Price's daughter, I believe, and Janet Ann Gallo, who was the little girl in, I believe it's Ghost of Frankenstein. She was in one of the Frankenstein movies. That's what I know. And that was a favorite of Gilbert's. So, so I wanted to give that show a shout out as well, and to point you guys, if you're into the horror stuff, right now would be a great time to listen to those interviews because they're fantastic. Okay, so it was auctioned by his son Bela Lugosi Jr. in 2011 with a starting bid of 1,200,000. It failed to sell, and it was later donated to the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, where as of February 2020, it was being restored. And so if you want to go see it, it's there, in California at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. The original release of this film featured a it featured an epilogue, which had Edward Van Sloan. Edward Van Sloan played Van Helsing. And then he would come out and he explained everything that you just saw. And it was removed for the 1936 re-release and is now presumed to be lost. And so when they went to make Frankenstein, they similarly copied that model by doing a prologue instead. So, Edward Van Sloan comes out and explains what you're about to see. And he comes out out onto a stage with curtains and talks about it. So that was something that he did. Although Dracula was Bela Lugosi's most famous role, he only played Dracula one more time, and that was in the 1948 comedy Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, where he played Dracula. Glenn Strange played Frankenstein, and Lon Chaney Jr. played the Wolfman, Larry Talbot. Also, originally, Lon Chaney Sr. was going to play Dracula, And then he died from alcoholism and whatnot. And the director, Todd Browning, was very, very um, upset and distraught over this while making the movie. And cinematographer Carl Freund ended up having to film, direct some of this film himself. So there were kind of like two directors on this, and Todd Browning had a hard time because they were both friends, Lon Chaney and Todd Browning. Never once in this movie does Dracula blink, an effect that enhanced the undead characteristics, uh, otherworldly aura, and that was attributed to Lugosi's famous stare. Bela Lugosi does not blink at all in this film, and I never realized that. So until I rewatched it, and he does not blink. And this was achieved by the cinematographer Carl Freund aiming two pencil spotlights into Lugosi's eye. So basically, he was blinding him in a way, I guess. Now, by day, they would film the English version of Dracula. And then at night, they would film using the same sets, the Spanish language version of Dracula. And the Spanish language version of Dracula is a little more risque, just a tiny bit more. It's tiny bit more risque. It's a little more sexier. It doesn't have sex in it, but it's a little more sexier. But it's a beautiful, beautifully done film, all in Spanish, with Spanish actors, of course. Now, did you know, and this is one of the things I got from this, is that on June 12th, 2014, June 12th, 2014, the last surviving cast member of this film died at the age of 104. Her name was Carla Lamey. And she played the ungainly teenager at the beginning. She plays the young teenager at the beginning who's reading the book out loud about Transylvania and hearing out all the history and facts about it. That was her. And she was the niece of the founder of Universal Studios, Carl Laemmle. But she is, and she is rightfully so for claiming this. She is also the first woman or girl, however you want to put it, in talking pictures to have the first line of dialogue in a horror film. And horror was not a genre then. It wasn't anything like that then until 1934, by the way. It was not a genre then. But she was the first woman of horror, really. She spoke first. And that is something that's awesome. And it's a nice little thing to know that she did that. And her first role was in 1925's The Phantom of the Opera, where she played a ballerina. And her last film was in 2017. So think about that. Her first film was in 1925, and her last film was in 2017. And that was in a little film called The Extra, and she played a character named Minnie. So she not only was she the last surviving cast member of Dracula, but also of the 1925's Phantom of the Opera. How amazing is that? That not only did she live to 104, but she worked well into 2017 before she died. God bless her. Now, originally Universal wanted to make a big budget adaptation of Dracula and sticking solely to the book. But the studio, however, because of the stock market crash and of the beginning of the Great Depression, decided not to take that leap of faith and an investment into doing a big budget version of the book, and they thought that's too big of a risk, way too big of a risk, and instead they decided to adapt the less expensive Hamilton Dean stage play. And Dracula had been, over the years before it was made a film, made into a stage. I believe Frankenstein was the same way as well. A lot of these things were done as stage plays. It took 15 years for Universal to adapt Frankenstein. I mean, not Frankenstein, Dracula. It is generally regarded as the film that kicked off the horror genre in film. Even more than film, in Hollywood itself. So Dracula is basically the first horror film that Hollywood made. And it was Bela Lugosi who negotiated with the author's widow to agree to let Universal Pictures acquire the film rights to the novel and Hamilton Dean's play for $40,000. So we can thank Bela Lugosi for getting Dracula made, my friends. And that is something that is entirely surprising, because even I didn't know this. And when I do these reviews, I do them and I try to do my homework into knowing the little facts and trivia and knowing what the movie's about. And I try to watch it before I do a review and then do the review. So yeah, it was very much that. And as I said before, the film was to be made with Lon Chaney, but he died, and then it was going to go to a couple other actors, and they passed on, or they didn't want to do it, and it went to Bela Lugosi, who it became his most famous role. Did he become typecast as Dracula? Maybe, but he embraced that role. Now, Dracula was released on February 14th, 1931, Valentine's Day. I know you would think, oh, it was released for Halloween. No, Valentine's Day. The estimated budget on this movie in 1931 was $355,000. And it grossed $85,204 worldwide. So for that time, it was probably a lot of money. I enjoyed this film. I like this film. It's one of my favorites because Bela Lugosi, or Bella, however you want to pronounce it, is mesmerizing as Dracula. He's fantastic. And he embraces that role. He is Dracula. And like I said before, even about Frankenstein, even about the Wolfman, is that back then these movies really did scare audiences. And it's funny now how they just seem tamed. And they didn't have ratings back then. It just said passed. I think that as we've hit 1931, so as we're some 90 years into this film, 92, wait, no, hold on, 91 years, going on 90, 2 years of Dracula being out there in the world. It's amazing how it has stood the, the, stood the test of time and become a classic. And remember, these were movies that were made back then where they were just shown once. There was no DVD, streaming, VCR, Laserdisc, Betamax, whatever. You would just watch it when it came out in the theater. And then it was repackaged, I think sometime in the 50s, to appear on television. But other than that, these were movies that were made for the theater. And there was no music for this film at all. There was some, but not a whole lot. Because talkies were just starting to get big and people thought, do we really want music with this? So a lot of the music, I believe, like in the later eras of Blu-ray and all stuff, mm, added post production. So yeah, it's a great film, and Bela Lugosi is a classic. And when you think of Dracula, you think of Bela Lugosi, and he he is really your first horror film star. He's a horror film idol, and honestly, there were days like it spawned all these different sequels and stuff like that, like Dracula's Daughter and other films that I can't think of at the moment. But no matter what, no matter who plays Dracula, the classic image of Dracula that we will always remember is Bela Lugosi. And him coming down those stairs, just coming down the stairs in his castle. As he comes down those stairs and he sees Jonathan Harker and he says, listen, listen to the children of the night. He's speaking about the wolves. And he loved that role a lot. He loved playing Dracula. The character actor Dwight Fry, I should say, after playing Renfield in this film, the only time he could get a job is if he was playing someone crazy or a sidekick or a henchman or whatever. And he got typecast into that role of crazy person. And he didn't like that, but that's what it was in those days. That's what they did. They liked it so much. Well, you play that guy. You should play this one, and it sort of reminds me today of some people who play certain roles, but then do other movies. It's sort of like when you watch a Marvel movie or a DC movie, and you see a certain actor has uh, traveled or not traveled, has chosen to do another role or a smaller movie. They don't want to be typecast as just Thor or just Iron Man or just so and so. They want you to know that they can do other things as well, and they've done other things. And it was very hard for David Fry to do that. Very hard. I believe he ended up with a drinking problem and ended up dying young as well. So I would recommend this movie to you. And again, these are just my opinions and my thoughts on the film. You don't have to agree with them. If you agree with them, great. If you don't, I understand. I respect your opinion just as much as you would respect mine. I want to thank everybody who takes the time to watch these videos and comment on them as well. And again, please like, comment, and subscribe to not only my channel, but the channels down below. And keep enjoying I hope you're all enjoying my spooky October editions of After the Movie Reviews, because we got some great horror movies coming up. Some great, spooky type movies for October coming out. So stay tuned and watch that, because it's going to be fun. And as I'd like to say, all in all, I've had a great time reviewing this movie with you and talking to you about it. And just remember, whoever you are, wherever you are, wherever you go, wherever you be, whether it be in this galaxy, the 29 known galaxies, or even just your home or walking down the street, we are all goof people. Thank you, and have a pleasant tomorrow. Bye-bye.